Today, we're diving into one of the most exciting digital economies on the planet, Indonesia. This is a country with huge ambitions for its online future, and it's all being driven by this incredible, fast-growing startup scene. But here's the big question we're tackling. Can this digital boom really lift the entire national economy, especially when there are some pretty serious challenges in the way? All right, let's just put the core question right out there. Can a whole new generation of tech companies, this army of startups, fundamentally change the economic future of the world's fourth largest country? You gotta admit, the stakes couldn't be higher. So first, let's get a handle on just how big Indonesia is dreaming. We're not talking about small incremental growth here. The government is aiming for nothing less than a digital revolution. And this really lays out the two sides of the coin. On one hand, you've got this massive ambition, a government target of $130 billion in e-commerce. But on the other hand, you have some really tough obstacles, a global pandemic, tricky online regulations, and the constant risk of local startups getting snapped up by foreign giants. It's a classic story, right? Huge potential versus some very real risks. Okay, so to get a sense of where Indonesia might be going, we first have to look back. What does the data from the recent past tell us? What's the story so far? Now, don't worry about memorizing every single number here. Just let your eyes follow that bottom row for national GDP. See that? It's a clear, steady climb year after year from 2014 to 2018. This kind of stable growth created the perfect launchpad for what came next. And yeah, while the whole economy was growing nicely, the startup scene was just exploding. You can see it right here. The total number of startups just surged between 2015 and 2018. This is that digital engine really starting to rev up and build some serious momentum. So how in the world can we use that history to actually peek into the future? Well, the forecast we're about to see was made using a really powerful tool, and I'm going to break down exactly how it works in simple terms. The tool is called a Markov chain. I know, it sounds super complicated, but the idea behind it is actually pretty simple. The best way to think of it is like a weather forecast, but for the economy. A weather forecast looks at past patterns, how often a sunny day follows a cloudy one, to predict what's likely to happen tomorrow. Well, a Markov chain does the same thing, just with economic growth. And the whole process basically breaks down into three simple steps. First, you feed all that historical data we just saw into the model. Then the model gets to work, crunching the numbers to figure out the probability of one thing happening after another. And finally, it uses those probabilities to map out the most likely trends for the next few years. All right, and this is where it gets really interesting, the results. After looking at the past and running all those numbers through the model, what did the forecast actually say was coming for Indonesia's digital economy? So the first prediction is fascinating. The model didn't just see the growth in startups continuing, it saw it accelerating. Look at that. It jumps from 20% in 2019 up to 24%, and then hits a really strong 28% growth rate for the next 2 years. That startup engine isn't just running, it's projected to hit the gas. So where's all this growth coming from? This chart breaks it down for us. E-commerce, no surprise, is set to keep climbing. But check out that category labeled Other. It shows a huge jump, which suggests the digital boom is spreading out into all sorts of new and innovative areas we might not even expect. But here's the million-dollar question, or I guess the billion-dollar question. Does all that startup growth actually affect the national economy? Well, according to this forecast, the answer is a big yes. The projected growth in the national GDP almost perfectly mirrors the startup growth, climbing right up from 22% to 28%. The model shows a really clear, powerful link between the two. And if we dig just one level deeper, we can see how this actually plays out across different industries. You've got information and communication and the processing industry. Both are predicted to see some really healthy growth. But honestly, the most surprising story here is in a much more traditional sector, agriculture. Yeah, look at that number. Over 56% projected growth in agriculture's contribution to GDP. This right here shows the real power of a digital economy. It's not just about building cool tech companies. It's about using those new digital tools, things like e-commerce for farmers or smarter logistics, to totally supercharge a nation's most traditional industries. So we've looked at the ambition, the history, the method, and the forecast. What's the bottom line? What's the one big idea we should be taking away from all of this research? It's this, plain and simple. The connection is real. This research concludes that the explosion in startups directly fuels a positive trend for the entire national GDP. So, that question we asked at the very beginning, can an army of startups supercharge an economy? Well, according to this forecast, the answer looks like a resounding yes. And that just leaves us with one last thing to think about. The model predicts a boom is coming. But to make sure that potential turns into reality, to really become a global tech powerhouse, what are the next big hurdles in things like regulation, infrastructure, and talent that Indonesia has to clear?